What's going on, everybody? I haven't made a video in a while. Thought I'd talk about something that's kind of at a it's a it's a pretty relatable topic to some people. It it's a topic that's especially important right now. So here in the first week of November, like every 4 years, we decide who our president's going to be, and to do that, you have an election that happens. You have the, a lot of people have thoughts about the popular vote versus the electoral college and how that works in a national election. Whether that vote matters or not. Before I was arrested, I voted in every election that I could, and I tried to educate myself to the extent possible that an 18-year-old can do about who the best person, the best candidate would be in that election. So, and I would go down to the polling place, wherever that may have been, and I would cast my ballot. And I did my civic duty, and I felt like, what I could do was done, and moved on. Since I've been convicted and have been a convicted felon, I obviously can't vote. And I say obviously, and this is the one of the main points of this video. I live in Kentucky. Kentucky is one of the 3 states in the country right now out of 50. 3 don't allow any kind of provision for. There's a caveat to this. I'm going to talk about it, but they don't generally allow for a convicted felon to be able to vote. So in Kentucky, once you're convicted of a felony, that's it. You can't vote again, and unless you have either your rights restored by the governor, which is a very long, complicated political. I think it's probably a political process, or you receive a full pardon from the governor, which is even more so that way. I've known some people before they got a pardon, and they were pardoned, and I'm going to say that it probably involves politics and money, a little bit of both. So, election day is coming up here in about 3 weeks, a little less than that, and I can't vote. So it's something that the more I think about it, it bothers me. Granted, and again, this is, I don't know if I've talked about this or made this concept known. I'm a convicted felon because of my actions and because of what I did, and I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of what I did by any stretch, but I did what I did. I on some level knew that a conviction for a felony could happen and what that would mean. So I have a fundamental issue with the way the law is, and I'm really not able to change that directly or by myself. That's the problem that I have, I guess. There's 47 other states that allow convicted felons to vote, whether it's automatically. Most states, it's automatically. Once your time is done, then you get an automatic restoration of civil rights, and you're able to vote again. In Kentucky, that's not the case. You have to apply for this process. It's a very archaic process. It's a very, I would say, arbitrary process. And it's if the governor wants to approve it, he can. If he doesn't, then he doesn't have to. Florida had a challenge to their law. The 3 states that are it's called disenfranchisement. 3 states that permanently do that are Iowa, Kentucky, and Florida. Kentucky does it the way they do it. Florida had an issue with they put a issue on the ballot where it was going to allow convicted felons the right to vote again, on more of a broad type spectrum, and the people in Florida, the governor in Florida, had something to do with it. And basically the outcome, to the way I understand it, was that they put an exception in there to where, yes, if you're a convicted felon, you can have the right to vote again restored, but you have to pay all your fines, fees, restitution, etc. In some cases, that can amount to, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And not to say that person shouldn't be liable for that money, because that should continue. But the problem that a lot of people have with that case in Florida is that you're conditioning a constitutional right on money. And so it's an issue I take exception with. You shouldn't condition the right to vote on money, and you can see how there would be challenges to that, and there would be a lot of people that would have an issue with that. So Iowa is the other state. The other 47 states, there are some states that allow convicted felons the right to vote in prison while they're under an active sentence. Vermont is one of those. So you have people that are in prison and then they get out. Well, they're getting out, and the term they use is re-entering society. It's re-entry, and it's a big. It was anyway when I was released in 2015. It was a big, kind of a code word for grant money from the federal government, and they get that grant money, and they states take that money, and I think they just flush it the same place that education money goes down. So they get this money and they do these things and they promise these things, but they don't really make any difference. I don't think has been my experience in a lot of ways. You can't change people's minds, and that's what you're really trying to fight. And I'm not trying to gripe in this video here, but the point is that if you have someone that's in custody that goes to prison, that commits a felony, is convicted of a crime, a felony, and they go to prison, they do their time, and they get out, there isn't any letdown or any let off of that fact. And that's what I have a problem with, I guess, is that, once you're convicted, that's it. There's no review of you as a person. There's nothing else that needs to be said. No one else cares about what you've done or what you have going on, or the person you are now, or the fact that you wouldn't hurt a fly, or that you won't steal a single pen or penny from a store. You can have the integrity of I'd say a priest. That's probably not a good thing, but you can have the ultimate integrity, and still people hear that and find out about that, and it changes. You can see where it's happened and see it in look at the time of when it's happened, of when their opinion of you may have changed, and it's usually just after they found out you have a conviction for a felony. So I don't agree with it. I think that a felony is, over the course of time, it's meant different things. Felonies used to be reserved for things like treason, murder, laying in wait, burglary, serious crimes, and there was a very small list. If you look at the U.S. Code and the different state statutes across the country, in some states it's beyond belief what constitutes a felony. I knew a guy in prison that was locked up for. He had a plate that he changed to drive to go get his registration on his car to get the correct registration. He got stopped, and it was either a stolen plate. It was his plate, but it was either a reported stolen plate or it was a registration sticker that came from the clerk's office, and that was a felony. So he did a year in prison for that. It's wrong. You shouldn't do it. But I mean, is it before that he never had a felony? So. Is that something that really is worth talking about? There's another issue that comes with the whole felony conviction. Several. I've talked about it before in a previous video about collateral consequences, and one of those that's coming up right now, and it's especially binding on current events, is that we've had a Supreme Court justice die. Supreme Court justices are appointed for life by the president or until they resign. They can theoretically be impeached, but I don't believe it's ever happened. If it has, then I'll may update the video and put that in the description. But Supreme Court judges are appointed for life. We've had one die, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was a very good judge. Not because I don't want to say anything about the dead bad, but she was a very good judge, a very fair judge. Certainly a liberal judge, but she was a very fair judge. The president has decided that he wants to confirm Amy Coney Barrett. And from what I've seen of the testimony that she's given before the committee that approves or recommends, confirms Supreme Court judges, she is handling it the best that she could. There's a case that came up that I heard about from another video online, and it's talking about gun control and about convicted felons having the right to carry a gun again. There's an individual, the case is called Torres v. United States, I believe. And individual in Ohio had an operating, while intoxicated, operating under the influence charge, was convicted of that, and that was a felony. And because of that, he's no longer able to carry a gun, and he's went through a process or in the process of going through it to be able to own a gun again. A lot of disinformation exists among people that are in prison or get out that you can get your gun rights back. No such thing exists. There's a few things I could think of where that would be, and that would be things like a pardon, and that would be things like there was a defunct program that was started, but has been effectively defunded since 1992 in Congress through the ATF. If you send paperwork to that request to that address, they just send it back. They don't even act on it. It's a program that allows the ATF, the commissioner of the ATF, to give you your gun rights, as it were, back. That program doesn't exist anymore. It hasn't existed for 30 some odd years. So once you're convicted of a felony federally, that's it. And even some misdemeanors, domestic, if you're charged with domestic violence federally, then you can't possess a gun ever again. I have a fundamental issue with the government saying that you're not allowed to defend yourself, and it doesn't really feel right. And it's not to go out and rob people. You shouldn't have a right to go out and rob people, but you should definitely have a right to go out and defend yourself and to live your normal life. It seems like the media and just events, I mean, things are crazy right now. Doesn't really seem right that the government says because of something you may have done or you did do several years ago, and you've changed your life, you've learned from your mistakes, that you don't have a right to defend yourself and defend your family anymore. Possession of a bullet is a felony if you're a convicted felon. Possession of a gun certainly is. Doesn't matter whether it's a rifle, pistol, shotgun, black powder, muzzle loader, flintlock, blunderbuss, doesn't matter. If you have a bulletproof vest to protect yourself, and a lot of people are going to kind of get lost at this point, but if you can't carry a gun, if you're doing certain jobs like security, for instance, what I'm doing right now, you should be able to at least have a vest on to stop someone who would shoot you for, whatever you're defending or protecting or whatever you're doing. And there's this case that is coming before the Supreme Court, and I think this judge had something to do with that case. Potential confirmed Supreme Court Judge Amy Coney Barrett. We'll see. If she's of the mind that a conviction for a felony, of any kind of felony, or of certain degrees of felony, shouldn't automatically bar you from having a gun again, that could change things. That's a case that the Supreme Court is going to be taking up when they return to session here this month, here shortly. But those are the two issues, and when you have someone that goes to prison, commits a crime, it takes their punishment and serves their time and gets out, and they get out and they can't vote, I can tell you from my personal experience, it makes you feel like an outsider. It makes you feel like a separate part of a society that doesn't want you. They want your tax dollars. You better pay tax or you're going to go back to prison, jailbird, right? But you can't vote. You can't decide who represents you. You can't decide who is going to stand there. And politics is another entirely different thing. But you need to at least have the opportunity, I think, to elect people that represent your interests, whatever it may be, whether it's Republican, Democrat, Independent, Communist, Socialist, whatever it may be. But to not have that chance is something that I can say unequivocally bothers me, and it has made me feel like I'm not wanted in society. And it's not about not being wanted. It's just it disenfranchises you. It's a good word. It's a powerful word, but it gives you the feeling that no matter what you do, it's not going to be enough, and that you're not wanted, and that no contribution you make is going to matter. And that's a bad message to send. And the same as you can't defend yourself. You can't. I'm not talking about you can limit it if you wanted to. I don't know. No assault weapons. I think any weapon's an assault weapon by definition. You're taking a piece of metal and throwing it at someone at 900 feet a second. It's an assault weapon. Doesn't matter the rate of fire or any of that. But to have a basic defensive weapon versus an offensive weapon, I can understand. You could put some limitations on it, but to not be able to carry a pistol to protect yourself when you're going to and from work, or when you're out with your family because someone comes to the park or to the movie theater or to your child's school, or any of the other random places that these shootings have happened or shootings continue to happen every day, that needs to change. And you can put conditions, you can put a background check through it, you can make conditions as far as X amount of time removed from the conviction. You can put stipulations on the type of conviction that you would allow. And the thing is that I've called the NRA before and tried to get some information, try to get some support, try to talk to someone about this, and no one seems really interested to talk to someone that has a record that can't vote. There's where we get back to that, and can't really exert any kind of control or influence, I guess, as much as a vote carries in that process. So if you have one removed, then you have a society, a group of people in a society that are voiceless and disarmed. And that just feels wrong. And that's all I'm going to say about those two issues. So those are my feelings about those two issues. And I think Kentucky, Florida, and Iowa need to get with the times, and they need to quit disenfranchising people. And I think federally there needs to be a process to review people being able to legally arm themselves and defend themselves, because the criminals, and if you're a criminal, then you're always a criminal, is how that what effect that has. I'm not a criminal. I don't break laws. Laws are not for breaking. I don't steal anything. I don't lie to anyone about anything. You have a society, a group of people in a society that are voiceless and disarmed. It sets up a bad, a bad tone for a country that professes to be a lot of things that I think it isn't. So, that's all I have time for tonight. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I'll try to get back to you. Thanks.